Welcome to Keep Talking, a podcast by the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia. I'm your host, Sam Madore. Keep Talking is all about having honest conversations around mental health, lived experience, and hope. Today, we are joined by Paul Hollingsworth, a multi-skilled journalist with CTV National News. Later in the episode, we'll continue the conversation with the Foundation's president and CEO, Starr Cunningham. I'm so glad you're here. Let's keep talking. Please be advised, this conversation may contain discussion of suicide. I'm here with Paul Hollingsworth. Hello, Paul.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. And thank you for inviting me. I was pleased at the invitation. Starr and I and Kate Udo, I have deep connections to the foundation.
Yes.
Always flattered to be included in the programming, but very pleased for this opportunity. It meant a lot to see the email and the invitation.
Oh, excellent. I'm so happy to hear that. And of course, you've been involved with the Mental Health Foundation for quite a number of years. Starr actually shared with me that you used to be on the board of trustees.
Correct,
as well.
Yep.
And I'm going to launch right into it, Paul, because what is it that draws you to this cause and makes you think, okay, I want to, because you were on the board of trustees, you've stayed involved. What keeps you involved in Mental Health Foundation?
I can answer that a couple of ways. First of all, being on the board of trustees and not on anymore, a short way of saying that, my life was a little too busy to make all the commitments. So I felt bad because I thought at the time I was making a meaningful contribution. But I travel for work, my kids are busy, I was missing meetings and I felt bad. But that doesn't mean you still can't make contributions. The reason why I stay connected to the cause, to my community, to an issue like this, to the foundation, several reasons. First of all, I'm friends with Starr Cunningham. We worked together at CTV for many years.
Yes.
So that friendship, that connectivity, and when she pivoted her career to come here from CTV, she didn't bring me with her, but her being here provided an opening for me to play a role from time to time in the work that's being done in the community. I think as I formulate that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it happened over time. As a backdrop, when I was young, my older brother, Bryce, took his life. He committed suicide. He took his life by suicide. I didn't know what to do with that for a long time. It happened in university. And it happened at an age in my life where I was soldiering on. I was 20 years old. I had to stay in school, stay busy, stay focused, keep learning, be energetic and ambitious, and not let it derail my life and get to a point of achievement, of meaningful life status that I had planned. I had ambitions. I had to get there. And then when I got to be 35 years old, I looked back and I realized, man, I blew right past that event. And then I softened. I started to be more communicative on the issue. I'd like to think Starr saw something in me to maybe think I could play a role in some of the work she's done here. And it allowed me to expand that, if I can call it a narrative. I started talking about it a lot more and doing two things. Paying it forward and being backward reflective. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I went through in my life. My brother had a tragedy. And I would give anything to bring him back. I could talk to you for 24 hours on my strategies, what I could do differently to bring him back. But I look at what I went through, what my parents went through, what my sisters went through, my grandparents went through. There was no book, no playbook for that. I spent a lot of time reflecting on that, and it kind of angers me sometimes that the world was the way it was in 1991, that there was not many programs or programming or
those
community initiatives.
Those conversations weren't happening.
Yeah, we were very much alone.
Yep.
And then I have an opportunity where in this community, I have agency. I can actually be an agent of change. I don't want to sound vainglorious saying that. I don't think I'm Superman and I can do great things and save lives. But I'm on TV for a living. I've been on TV for 30 years in this community.
Yeah.
I'm born and raised here. If I may, I think some people think I'm a decent guy. So I have I don't have a bad reputation.
Right,
I'm not trying,
yes.
I don't want to engage in self-flattery here, but I know I'm self-aware enough to know that, I got more going for me than going against me, that I can use my experience, my relationship with Starr, my relationship with the foundation, have meaningful conversations with people and maybe connect with one young person a year or two young people a year, or do something that leads to a series of events that spares a family the pain that my family went through. Can you imagine, you probably can, how rewarding that would be to know that a family, a mother and father, a sister or brother were spared the pain that the Hollingsworth family went through because of a series of events that I was a part of, trying to be active in the community on this issue. I think that's a pretty good aspiration to live my life by. So that's kind of how I'm here, why I'm here, what I'm doing, and the role I play. I'm very careful to point out, though, with all modesty, I'm not doing huge things, but I'm trying to do my part.
Well, and it doesn't take huge things. And I think that's what these conversations are all about. And having this podcast is all about how it's the little conversations, the day-to-day conversations that really make an impact. And I met you at our Let's Keep Talking event. And, you know, this podcast is called Keep Talking. It's that thought of just how important it is to continue to have these conversations. And I think with you as MC at those events, for anybody who has not been to one, you sharing your story and talking about Bryce really sets the tone for everybody to feel comfortable in that environment. And I think it's so important that you set the tone by saying we're all in this together.
Yeah. I think that's so well said. And also, I think too, if I may, I've never suffered from the things that brought my brother down. By the grace of God, I don't have depression. I don't have anxiety. I don't have now. I have things I need to work on in my life, and there are ways I could improve and be a better version of myself. And I wish I had more strengths in this area or that area. But in the areas of mental health, I don't have some of those things really impacting me the way they impacted him, and the way they impact so many of us in the community. And I kind of like the fact that I can come in with an experience, but not a lived experience, if that makes sense. My experience is from my family. I don't live with, I may actually, way back when I may have had some PTSD based on what happened to my family. I probably wasn't diagnosed at the time, and I probably did my own self-help plan to get out of it. Yeah. But sometimes we go to these events, you meet people who have dealt with this or dealt with that and had to come out of this situation or that situation. Mine's a bit broader than that. Like I can stand in front of a crowd of people and say, I haven't dealt with this in my soul, but I've dealt with this in my world. And it's just it's just as important for me to have the conversation as it would be for somebody else. I like the role I play because the suit of armor that I wear comes from the experience that I lived with my family and my brother, and it's made me a better person. And that better person is a little more sensitive than he otherwise would have been. It has a different set of values than he otherwise would have had. And I like signaling to the world that this horrible event made me a better person. If I may say that this way, but it's so conflicting because if I had one wish in the world, this thing would never have happened. Yeah. But I know the 2025 version of Paul Hollingsworth wouldn't be who he was, but for the fact that this happened.
100%.
Get your mind around that, and you'll twist yourself into 10 different knots. But I take all those experiences and I stand proud in front of a room full of people and talk about what happened in my family to my brother. And you're supposed to keep talking. You're supposed to stand up and keep talking. Harry Truman once said, one of my favorite quotes, there are those who stand for something, but those who stand up for what they stand for are the ones who matter the most.
Oh, I love that.
He's one of my favorite philosophers in history, Harry S. Truman, President of the United States. And I'm a bit of a presidential history nerd.
Love it, yeah.
And when I go to those events, I stand up for what I stand for. And so when I talk with my spine stiff and my shoulders back. And I kind of want to signal to the world that what happened to my brother didn't knock me down. It actually made me stronger. Yeah. And I have a bit of if I use the word vengeance, I have a bit of a vengeance in my life to try to right this wrong and try to change the world just a little bit if I can. And I like that. I like that version of me. There's this new John Candy.
I saw it.
And I think it's called I Like Me.
I Like Me.
I Like Me. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, if I may, there are things about myself I don't like. We all want to improve.
Yep.
But in that role that Starr has allowed me to have, I like me. I liked being that guy. And I didn't think so. When my brother died on December 16th, 1991, I didn't think I could ever be that person.
Right.
I was thrown in a 900-foot hole.
It was a foreign concept.
Yeah,
The world
it was like I thought things were
changed.
Yeah, I thought there was a dark cloud over me forever, and your life's going to suck, and you're going to have an asterisk next to you, and good luck, pal, because this is your fate. And I said, I'm not going to have that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to, in a very granular process. I call it my TSN turning point. It didn't happen overnight, a little bit at a time. You build up your foundation, you build up your strength, you acquire that suit of armor.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to 2025 or 2015 or 2013 when I started doing that event for Starr, and you see yourself arriving at a moment where you can stand up and talk in a principled way about something that matters to you greatly and dearly, about a core memory, about a person that mattered to you more than anyone in the world.
Oh, yeah.
I just think it's a culmination of all those things that bring me there.
And it brings up an interesting role in that the caretaker, the family role, because it isn't just the person who's struggling with mental illness. It's not just the person who dies by suicide. It is the family. It is the connections, right?
Yeah.
So it plays that important role for the people in the audience at those events too, to be like, that is me.
Yeah.
There's people winning awards at those events for being a mental health advocate and all of those things, and their family members are there. So you're speaking to those folks who are like, yeah, I've lived it.
Without question, it did terrible things to my mother and father.
Oh, I can't imagine.
It did horrible things to my sister. It did horrible things to me. My sister, Lauren, she passed away from an aneurysm 3 years ago at age 56. So I lost two of my siblings, and
Wow.
she was never the same. She's not here to talk about it herself, but she drank a bit too much. She made decisions that probably weren't the most productive. It took something out of her. So you come out of those events and you either get stomped into the ground and you can't bounce back, or you become stronger than you ever could be.
Yeah.
I mean, a different topic, but people who are victims of abuse, they can go two different ways.
Yep.
It can become intergenerational, or they can be the ones who say, it stops with me. And I've always been like the social science of how it affects different people different ways. The way it affected different people different ways in my family has always been amazing to me. And amazing is the word I would use. My parents were a much different category, because losing a child it's not the same as losing a sibling.
Yeah.
My tragedy does not resemble their tragedy. I know that. I'm self-aware enough to say that. But I can see in my community and in my family the way I was, like, I'll be damned if I let it happen again in my world. Like I drive by playgrounds and I look for the kids who are playing by themselves.
Yeah.
And I feel for them. I told this at the event, the Let's Keep Talking event. If I'm driving by Costco and it's a busy parking lot, I park the car and I go in, I walk around, and I find seniors who are unpacking their groceries to help them put them in their car. I'm not trying to be Mr. Good Samaritan, but I'm very much attuned to the fact that there are lonely people in the world who need to be cheered for. And I decided that from my event in my life and the events in my life, I want to be the person on the sidelines, cheering them on and clapping them on and letting them know they can do that. I'm very blessed that I have that attitude, but I'm also sensitive to the fact that it does destructive things to other people in different ways.
That's right.
Including my family. I have so much respect for everyone and anyone who's gone through these things.
Yeah.
But I'm also here to tell you that it affects all of us in different ways.
Every path
and
is
there are productive paths out of it.
Yes.
I'm not a fluke. There are plenty of people who are like me who have taken a horrible moment and tried to springboard it into positivity in their life, in their family, in their community. It's not unique to me.
100%. I love that. And you have an interesting take on it too, being in media as well. I feel like you've sort of been, especially if you think about starting with Let's Keep Talking when it started 11 years ago, I guess. We just had our 11th anniversary. But the way we talk about mental health and mental illness has shifted so much since Bryce passed away, but also since we've started having these conversations. And in media, I feel like you have such a front row seat to how the language has changed around mental illness.
Absolutely, I've seen it. We the way we cover tragedies, the way I remember when I first started working at CTV, like I remember and insensitivity is not a fair word, because the people who were speaking this way weren't meaning to be insensitive. It was the condition of the time. But I would hear conversations about suicide and mental illness, and that person's crazy. And now it's like, there's years ago I saw a Bill Clinton speech in person one time, and very good speaker, obviously, and he said if there's a turtle on a fence post, chances are somebody put it there for a reason. And it was his analogy to say, it's a clever little saying, it's his analogy to say things happen for a reason. Yeah. And so there are horrible things happening in our community every day. We report through the media. Well, now through our carefully trained, sensitive ears and 2025 lens, we know that like mental illness, mental health is at the root of so many of these things.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at that through that sensitive lens wasn't always there in my media career. I won't speak for Starr, but I bet you she would tell you she has the same experience going back to her early years.
Yep.
And none of these were awful reactions by people. It's just how we treated things.
That's right. It just was the way that it was.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember and to tie that back to my experience, I remember when my brother passed away. So I say December 16th, 1991. He went missing on December 13th. We couldn't track him down all weekend. We found him on the 16th. The superintendent takes us to his apartment. We go and we find my brother, and he's therefore 25 years old forever, and he's gone. My big brother stopped living that day. Never old enough to have gray hair. No, it was an unspeakable tragedy. That night, my friends invited me to come over to watch Monday Night Football.
Oh, gosh.
I get invited to, but they didn't know.
Of course.
That whole looking at things differently. I get invited to a party the next night. We had his funeral. That was on a Monday. I get invited to Monday Night Football that night. I get invited to a Christmas party the next night. I politely declined. I had to write an exam at St. Mary's on the Wednesday. I love my alma mater. This is not a shot at St. Mary's University.
Yes.
I launched a scholarship at St. Mary's University. I had to write my exam on Wednesday. The school there was no process to give me time off from my exam.
Wow.
Sorry, kid, you got to write your exam.
Yeah.
Sorry about your brother. That's a drag.
Wow.
Your exam's at 7:00 at night at the tower. Be there or you fail. That's the world I lived in. I remember being so angry about that.
Oh my
and
gosh!
So and
probably taking it on internally too.
Yeah.
Like I can't because that's the expectation, and if I can't meet that expectation,
Yeah.
what does that say about me?
And that's exactly and what does it say about the world around you and their expectations? So I found that very callous.
Yeah.
And so I always had that, and this ties back to your media observation because you make a really good point about how we used to see these things. I came into my media career in 1995, 4 years removed from this tragedy. A little ticked off about how insensitive the world was on this, and going into newsrooms and saying this industry is a little insensitive about this, but the communities are insensitive about this. We started talking, we started healing, we started being better educated, more self-aware, more sensitive, and we've come to a better place. But I would submit to you there's still a long way to go and more work to be done. We are climbing the mountain, but we have not reached the top of the mountain yet.
For sure. And I would agree with that. And I feel like this is a whole separate conversation, but your media world in sports too is a whole other, that takes a whole separate podcast interview, I think.
Without question.
Yeah.
You know, I am proud of the fact that, you know, I don't spend a lot of time congratulating myself. I've really, really tried to take ego out of my life. I've tried to not be the person who likes full-length mirrors. You know, I want to be a humble.
But you got to see how your pants look.
I got to see how your pants look for sure. But I want to like, and I'm returning to a previous theme. Like, I am continually devastated by what happened to my family. I will be forever sad. There's 80% of me that's happy and 20% of me that has a bit of a hangdog every single day. I think my brother's worth that. But at the same time, I've always been a little proud of the fact that I didn't let it destroy me, that it let me be it bounced me in a better direction.
Yes.
And my own personal, my own morality reset out of that. Like I'm not sure I loved everything about Paul pre-1991.
Right.
I wasn't dishonest, but I wasn't the honest character that I could be. I was a good friend, but these days I treat my friendships as like personal codes of conduct. I wasn't disloyal, but I'm an extremely loyal guy now to my friends. Like, it gave me this reset in so many different ways. And if you get clarity on the person you want to be, if you get clarity on those behavioral patterns that you want to come naturally to you, it prepares you to help everybody in your midst that much more. It gives you a bit of personal self-integrity, if I can. I can't stand in front of a room full of people at a Let's Keep Talking event and asking them to heal with soothing. I try to urge them to find pathways to heal with soothing language and share a personal experience. if I can at least start the conversation by being the person I want to be.
That's right.
That's kind of the point I'm coming
and
to.
if you're not living it.
100%.
Yeah.
And so I've always returned to use the word gratitude, I've always returned to the word gratitude when it comes to Starr. For her to bring me in to be a part of the foundation, even in little ways from time to time, it helps me build on that.
100%.
And I'm so grateful for that. And
the little ways are bigger than,
without
than you
question.
realize.
And my kids are watching me do it. And my wife
Yes.
watches me do it. I want them to be proud of me. If my brother's watching down from some other place, I want him to be proud of me. My sister as well. My parents are both gone. I want them to be proud of me.
Yes.
If there is a universe where these people are still paying attention to what I'm doing, and I have to
I believe there is.
I believe there is too.
Yes.
And I have to see them again someday.
Yep.
If my brother pulled me aside someday, many, many years from now, in a different universe, in a different ethosphere, and says, okay, I passed away in a terrible tragedy in 1991. I showed you how the world can be sad and destructive and what an awful chapter can look like. What did you do? What did you do? Did you wallow? Did you descend into be a different kind of version of yourself? Or did you use that to try to have a positive influence and change going forward? I need to be able to answer that question properly if that day ever comes.
I love
and
that.
it's a great fuel to have on a daily basis. And I don't think that's a religious, faith-based look at things. I just believe that we don't know. I believe in my heart of hearts, I may have to answer to him someday. And I'm working on the answer to that question every single day.
Oh gosh, I really love that. And I've lost my mom 5.5 years ago now, and I feel the exact same way. And it's so great to hear you put that into that perspective because it just feels like this. Yeah, they're worth that.
Yeah, without question,
Yeah,
without
I
question.
love that
And
you
being
said
a little
that.
sad, and I'm sorry to hear about your mom, but being a little sad about those things, I think if you remember someone every day.
Yeah.
And if you get choked up about them every single day, which I do, I think they're worth that. I don't need to fake anything.
Yeah.
I can be a productive citizen, a good family man, have a good career, and be active in my community, and be a little bit sad mourning the people who fell before me.
That's grief. That's
Yeah,
grief, and that's
without
love.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And so one thing I wanted as a final question for you, Paul, is, you said 80% happy, 20%, you're always holding that sort of 20%.
Yeah.
There's grief mixed into every day. How do you find joy in your day to day? What are the things that do you actively go out and seek joy?
In no particular order, I exercise all the time. I go to the. I went this morning. I go to the gym 6 days a week. I run 6 days a week.
Nice.
I eat healthy food. I take my brother, and the reason there's reasons for that. My brother, when he died, and he clearly suffered from terrible forms of mental illness, was also he descended into a drug culture. I came out of that thinking that he turned his, at the time I was harsh about it, like he turned his back on his greatest gift, his life. And obviously he was sick, so I can't hold him accountable for that, but I won't put things into my body. I will take care of my body. If I die young, it won't be because I was reckless with how I took care of myself.
Right.
So I take a lot of joy out of that. I derive a lot of self-esteem from taking care of myself in a physical way. So I start my day with that. I think I'm a good dad. I do. My daughter's second year nursing at St. FX. My son is fourth year. Actually, he's in his fifth year because he went part-time for a year. My son is finishing up a commerce degree at St. Mary's University.
Nice.
I take pride in being a good husband, being a good father, being active in the community. Trying to be generous. I use the word code of conduct with my friendships.
Yeah.
I hang with the same guys I've been hanging with all my life. My
love
buddies
it.
from my St. Pat's High School, Oxford School, they're still my friends. And I think they know that if something went wrong in their life at 4 a.m. and they called me for an emergency, I'd be there for them. That matters to me. And so I take joy about it. And I mentioned earlier, I joked about going to Costco parking lot and helping people. I actually do that. But I enjoy doing that. I enjoy looking out, finding ways to look out for it. It's a scientific fact that it's better to give than it is to receive.
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
that goes for being kind to people. Barack Obama, Surgeon General, said about 15 years ago, one of the worst problems plaguing people in the U.S. is loneliness. And then he went on with these stats, like 1 in 5 males at a certain age bracket don't even have a best friend. And so I'm very sensitive to that. I've been blessed with a lot of friends. So out of my experience, I find a lot of joy in being aware of those things and just trying to find ways to be a little bit connective with people, like a little pausing for a brief conversation with somebody, trying to have a positive moment in somebody's life. If somebody watches CTV for 30 years and they stop me in the street corner and they say, hey, are you the guy from the news? I might give them a 15-minute conversation that I don't have time to give.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that they come away from that moment knowing that they matter to me because they are in my world. We're breathing the same air. We're living in the same community. We all have a responsibility to leave our world a bit better than the way we found it.
And you can make that connection.
I want to be there for them in that moment. So those are the things that bring me a lot of joy,
Excellent.
And sports trivia. I like to read sports trivia every day. I still memorize sports trivia.
I love it.
I will be a baseball, hockey nerd for the rest of my life.
Oh man, I need to introduce you to my husband.
Yeah.
He also is. Yeah. Listen, thank you so much, Paul. This has been a really great chat, and it's so important to keep talking, and I'm so happy that you're part of that conversation.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
We are continuing the conversation. Hey, Starr.
Hello, Sam.
So just want to tie it back to the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia, Starr Cunningham, our president and CEO. We chatted with one of your close friends today, Starr.
You did. Now, you call him Paul Hollingsworth.
Yes.
I call him Holly.
Yeah. Well, we were copied on an email, and you said, hi, Holly. And I was like, who is she talking to? Did she send this to the wrong person?
That's funny.
That's awesome. So a really great conversation with Paul, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And he did talk about a little bit about how you sort of brought him into the support of mental health through the foundation, and also with events like Let's Keep Talking and things like that. So maybe we can chat with you a little bit about that and when you brought him in.
Sure. So it's funny. I didn't know a lot about Paul's personal life, but I worked with him for over 20 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And it just shows that once I made the move to the foundation, where having open, honest conversations about mental health was the norm, wasn't taboo. That's when Paul and I started to talk on a deeper level about how mental illness and addiction has impacted our lives. And that's when I discovered the story about the loss of his brother and how it impacted Paul's life and his upbringing and the man he is today. So it was because of that, when we were doing Let's Keep Talking for the first time, it just felt like he was the right person. Everything we do at the foundation, we want lived experience, right there at the forefront. So to have Paul present with his lived experience, his vulnerability and openness, and his experience as a broadcaster, it's
a perfect fit.
It was a perfect fit, and it's continued to be a perfect fit for more than a decade now.
11 years.
That's right.
That's amazing. And I mentioned to him too that, him being open and honest about his own story and talking about his brother, Bryce, at the beginning of the event really just, I think, adds that extra layer of comfort for folks in the room to just be open about sharing and being comfortable in sharing their own stories.
It does. It sets the tone for the evening.
Yeah.
And the tone is one of safety and compassion and kindness and caring and understanding. And Paul is known to a lot of people for his work on TSN.
Yes.
And, he has covered World Series. He's covered, he's football games all over and hockey and everything else. So we kind of have an idea in our head what male sportscasters are like. And Paul just shatters that and, shows us that it doesn't matter what you look like, what your interests are, what job you do. You are a human being, and it's okay to not be okay all of the time.
Yes, that's so important. And one thing I really appreciated that Paul shared too was how the loss of his brother, though sad, obviously, he mentioned or made reference to the fact that he's not sure who he would have been had he not had that experience. He might have very much been a different person had he not had that experience and had that passion and desire to turn that experience into something positive, which I think is such a cool perspective.
It is, and it's interesting to recognize that everything that happens to us throughout our lifetime changes who we are and what's important to us, and the type of changes the type of impact we want to have on the world. And it takes a special kind of person to bounce back from that and say, I am going to do my damnedest to make sure this doesn't happen to another family. And that's what Paul has done. So
That's awesome.
yeah, hats off to Holly.
Hats off to Holly. I love it. Thanks, Starr.
Thanks.